What? Yep. Alrighty. Okay, microphone is live, as is the stream, of course. So, the other priorities we gotta get going is making sure we get our camera all set up nicely. So, let's quickly shrink this down just a little bit. And we gotta add our paint cam in. Hey, a little bit darker than I would like it to be there. And a little bit more zoomed in. So let's zoom that out a little bit. Focus it. And we'll get our lighting on. So, whoop. Oh god, every cable is tangled. But hopefully be able to make this work. Oh no, that's not going to work there. So we're going to have to run it over to here. And now, let's try it. Oh yeah, that looks nice. Got this, so we'll angle the camera a little bit over towards this way, and that should be us nicely. Right. So we've got this here, which is our kitchen roll. Ooh, I accidentally tore one of the sheets. Need to make sure we got a bit of it by ourselves. For our brushes. Now, hints. The color scheme for the Tyranids I'm going for is this kind of thing. White and blue. And green for sort of the eyes and such. So, for white, we're going to need to pick a base color. We want to go for a few different ones, so our super important ones, we've got Corax White, and maybe, for the underside, a little bit of Celestra Grey. So these here are for sure. We need a blue. So we're gonna go for Calidor Sky for our blues. Then we need layers of stuff. So Ulthuan Grey and White Scar going to be our layers for that. For our other ones, we want a little bit of Fenrisian Grey and a little bit of Blue Horror, because this guy is going to be very icy kind of thing. Let's go for a little bit of Calgar Blue as well for some of the darker little bits. And in terms of eyes, we're going to go for a lovely little moot green for the eyes. all those little bits of detailing. Then, so we can see on the top little bits of sort of thing on his spout. So, smoke. The smoky color, we're going to use a little bit of wag flesh, for sure. A little bit of warpstone green. We're going to use moot green as well. A little bit of Geist Blaster green. And shading. So, for this here, no contrast paints needed that I can think of. Actually, that's not true. We're going to try a little bit of Striking Scorpion green on the smoky bits for it. And let's try a little bit of, for the sort of fleshy tonguey bits and everything, we're going to go for Doomfire Magenta. A little bit of that. And the teeth are going to be Screaming Skull. So, I think that's a good variety of things to be dealing with. Now, when we look at the underside of this here, oh, I just noticed that. This right here. This right here is a Space Marine arm. So for a Space Marine arm, we're going to paint it in our Space Marine shade. So, base coat that section in Screamer Pink, and then we color it with, let's go with Cacophony Purple, and the highlights will be in Fulgrim Pink. Or do we go for, nope, Emperor's Children. We're going to paint it like we would paint our, what do you call it? So, that's us ready to start, I guess. We can see little bits of, actually, yeah, little bits of like stony sort of color. So we're going to go for Mechanica Standard Grey, Dawnstone, and the rebar we're going to do in Runefang Steel. So, yes, there we go. Got those. Now, to avoid getting paint all over my lovely dressing gown, we're going to take the dressing gown off, aren't we? And we are going to start off with a good big basing brush. That is going to be our muy importante one, because we got a lot of this to cover tonight. So at that point, we want to try and get the bristles nice and loose and flexible and everything. Oh yeah, there we go. Lovely. So let's get a good chunk of this here. Can I move this? Yeah, I can move it to here and it'll still be fine. So let's take some of our base. We're going to go for Corax White. Corax White is our base coat. So let's take a good chunk out of our paint pot and we're dabbing it onto our wet palette. So we want a good big amount of this. So Corax White will be for our non-chitinous parts, I guess. So take a bit of that and we're going to just sort of wash off and give our brush a good drying. Good sort of thing here. And right, let's take this and you know, maybe we let's try to get our green screen set up so that I'm not blocking as much of the shot. Ooh. Nope, that there. Okay, I don't even know what... Oh, is that a cable or something? Oh, that's what it is. Silly me. Silly me. Right. There we go. Okie dokes. Now we are ready to get started. So, we're going to take a good bit of this here paint, and we're going to dab it on basically everywhere. That is sort of fleshy, so we don't need to worry too much about the back or anything. I have a feeling our wet palette is too wet because this here looks a little bit sort of watered down at the moment. So let's try, maybe we brush it instead of dabbing it. It's going to take us a good few coats, I would say, before we start seeing what we want to see out of it. So we do what we can here. I can see there's a few points which are like veins, like actual textured popping veins on it, which is really nice little touch. So I want to try and just make sure for some of these pieces we are going to have to dab it in for some of the little angles and everything, but we should be able to sort of brush across a good chunk of things. Let's flip them over and start doing this here side. Get a good sort of brush across a lot of this here, because we're not using much in the line of paint currently, but we can brush it across and slowly build up layer by layer. Now I could, if I had wanted and been smart enough to think ahead, I could have coated the whole thing, spray coated in white scar. But instead, I opted to go for Xandri dust, because I wasn't sure at the time what I was going to be painting these guys like. I have since decided, when I did my test paint for Hive Fleet Frostilicus, and very much enjoyed it. Which is why I am sticking with the white and blue theme. Just because it looks bloody cool in my opinion. The white and the blue. My sort of internal headcanon for this, I guess, is that, oh, these have sort of basically been born and bred during an invasion of a very arctic planet. You know, very icy, but there's still a good bit of biomass. Think Subnautica below zero kind of vibes. That sort of thing. And I was like, yeah, okay, I can work with that. So you can see here, it's building up bit by bit. And this is probably going to be our biggest chunk of stuff to do along his back and legs and everything. Once the back and the legs are done, the chitin will be not anywhere near as sort of complex to do. It's largely plates sat atop of tissue. It doesn't have the same degree of sort of texturing to it. Just because chitin isn't as textured you know, the whole thing is, it's very exoskeletal. So it'll be a little bit easier to deal with. Like, this is just from a very swift little brush on it. But I think it looks like it's reasonably okay. We'll make sure we get in on the underside and dab it into some of these points here. Just try and make sure I get lots of the meat sort of stuff done with it. The armor and other such pieces on it can be little additional bits here and there. This is actually my first large-ish model that I've painted. You know, all the other ones I've dealt with have been like smaller things. I did half of a dreadnought at one point, but all my other ones have been like sort of 40mm ones, a few 28mm. But this is my first proper large. Actually, my largest thus far that I've fully done has been the corn gore blade, whatever you call it. Very grumpy looking thing from an early Age of Sigmar box. Possibly even the first Age of Sigmar box that was released. I can't entirely remember, but yeah, early, I mean. I want to say, when was I in uni? God, when would that have been? 2016, maybe? Something like that. Sometime around like 2016 or something. So make sure we get these sort of, I want the like sort of barbs of the tail. And then we'll get a little bit more onto this here side, sort of dab it on, push it around, and try and get it to set so that I like the fact that, you know, I'm using layer on top of, or like a base on top of a base, but it's not giving the 100% most even coverage, but that makes it look almost a little bit more realistic. So I'm going to quickly do a little repair on the brush. Not quite repair, but you know what I mean. Give it a good wet before too much stuff sets on it. Like the brush is starting to hook a little bit. So its big ol' abdomen is sort of done. Let's try and get in to the legs and such. So the legs I want to do not as much sort of there's a lot more carapace on the legs, but that doesn't mean it's all carapace. We've still got a good amount of sort of fleshy colors that we have to deal with, particularly up towards the base. So we'll give a good old dab of coloring over it on all the places I know I would consider to be very fleshy colored, as you can sort of see from like where I guess what I would consider to be the knee downwards. I'm considering that chitin. these here legs on the other hand, give good dab down into and everything, make sure I get lots of meaty sort of segments and everything. Good bit of the white colouring on these. Flip it and do the same on sort of this here side. So there we go, there's a few different bits done on it, which is lovely. Ooh. I can see sort of some of the bristles actually coming off the brush, which ain't ideal by any stretch of the imagination, but we'll try and get as many as we can brushed off and everything. Give a nice, good, clean coloration on it. So, its base of its body, I think I'm in a bit of a bind because I can't tell if I consider the underside of its main body to be like chitin, or do I consider that to be like soft tissue or anything. It's a very tricky one to know because it's kind of up to me, but I haven't entirely got the vision of it just yet. So make sure we get all these here bits on the underside. Give them a good solid dabbing of color. So he's got like some of the like this leg here, for example, not anywhere near as sort of chitinous. And these front, they're, I don't even know if you would consider them legs. They're not as skittery seeming. So let's take a little bit more of this, wash it across, make sure we get good coverage and coating on some of these little bits. And okay, so we've got the white armor done and everything, or like the white fleshy pieces. Gonna give the brushes a good proper clean. Ooh boy, brush is hooked. I think that the paint must have gone up into the ferrule, which is not great. Okay, that's a little bit better for that. A little bit better. So, our blue for the chitin will be Calidor Sky. Let's take some of this, and maybe we're not going to do dabs of it. Maybe this one is going to have to be brushed on. But that's a good amount there. So, we've got that. Let's take our bristle thing. Alright, fine. This one's hooked a little bit too much to I'm not happy with that kind of degree. So we're going to take our other wider brush, which is good for basing. We're going to load some of this here on, and let's do the chitin. Yeah. We just brush a whole crap ton of this across. So, alright, it's kind of working. But not to the degree I would want it to. If I dab this, is it any better? A little bit. It's spreading a little bit more as I dab it on. So maybe if I take a little bit and just instead just start from the outset dabbing it on. How is this looking? Yeah, not the easiest thing to be doing, I guess. So, make sure I get a good bit on here. You know, the blue, we build up over time, bit by bit. I guess I'm just being impatient is the main problem here. I always like it when I can get the opportunity to have one really easy, smooth coating covering everything, but it doesn't always work, does it? The answer being no, it certainly does not. So let's make sure I'm getting a good chunk of paint onto the brush all at once, and do our dabs along the back. Let's see. So maybe if I rush gently along here.
Am I alive yet?
Okay. All right. That's okay. Maybe what we do is we do the edges first. So we just try and go over, get a nice smooth bit along the edges of the carapace. A little teeny bit more on these here sort of bits. And okay, there's a little bit of white we'll need to redo there, but so be it. Take and brush along the edge of the chitin here. Hey. There we go. A little bit more. I could be using a far more precise brush than I currently am. I'm not currently at a point where a tiny mistake is a big problem. So I'm trying to get into these little bits along here and get it to where, you know, I can happily make a mistake and come back to it. So, yep. Alright. Good bit of sort of edge work along there. Let's do another little bit and we're going to go along this here side. So, let's take this and brush it down over these little segments. Another little bit. Okay, come on now, brush. Load up more paint. It's really not loading much at the minute. And okay, here we go. Getting a little bit more now. Right. All we do is little teeny bits at a time. No, we'll still have lots of white bits to go back over and everything. But if we can get a good amount of this here chitin edge, like colored, I guess, then we're in a really nice spot. We're just having to do touch-ups and the like. So let's try and get all along the sort of back of it and everything done. And around these sorts of indents and all. Make sure I don't want anything being too dark on its own. Which is why I'm sort of trying to, where there is a bit too much blue, brush it back out. Because a lot of this guy is going to be blue. He is a very armor-plated, exoskeletal kind of fella. Yeah, so slowly approaching towards the bottom side of them. Which is very nice to be in a position for. A little bit in here. And into these here little bits. And we'll try and get, you know, maybe it's time for some of these smaller bits, like down on his underside here. Maybe for some of these, we need to be coming at it from a perspective of smaller brush. Take longer to do, but it'll give us a neater, tidier line. So, good stuff on that. Let's I should definitely get paint thinner. Just like brush cleaner stuff. I should definitely do that. But yeah, you're back to around about how you were before. So let's take this bit'll do, and we'll take a little bit of the blue, and we're going to the underside here. Oh yeah, this I think was the absolute correct choice. I think also wetting the brush, even though we're using a wet palette, we used too dry a brush for the big sweeps. So I think we need to do the back with a nice wet brush. Not overly wet, obviously, but you know, not completely dry. And here we go on the underside. Getting there bit by bit. Okay, this song uses, the song that was just playing uses the same motifs as another one later in the playlist, which I very much enjoy, but I don't even know the name of it. Okay, bristle's starting to separate a little bit on this here. I don't want separating bristles. I want a nice point. I almost also put my finger directly into the paint on the palette there. Right, so getting little bits of blue along the ones here. Try and get this here with the underside. I want to try and see, can I... Oh, I see. That, I don't think that's a bristle from the brush. I think that may have been one of our dog's hairs that got caught under the spray paint. So let's see if I can use the clippers to pull that away. He says as he almost drags one of his own hairs onto the model. Why do I have so many hairs in this house? Okay, well, I think I've got it at least. Lovely. So, back to the brush. Good stuff, and we'll try and go underneath this leg to really get into the chitinous bit on the underside. A little bit of additional on the edges around here. And we'll try and do the same around here just really stick into the crevices and the ridges and everything. Lovely. And there's those bits. So now we'll do the same along this here edge. Good stuff. Happy with our slight teeny tiny bits of progress at a time. But regardless, going nicely. So, bristles separating again. Let's fix that. It's back together. Now, load in a good bit more of the paint onto the brush here. All of these tiny little bits along in here. Paint all the sort of cornery pieces. And just really drive the color along the edges here. Because our main thing is if we can get this underside clean, we're in a good position, because a lot of the underside we don't have to worry about to find a detail or anything like that. The underside will be secondary. It's an afterthought. Well, not an afterthought, but it certainly won't be anywhere near as visible as the top side. Which is why we're trying to do these little bits along here and everything. And now why we can take our other wider brush and start doing a whole big layer along the top. But we want to get it good, not completely dry, which it's not completely dry now. So let's take it and brush it along. Oh, that's maybe too watery. Let's get a crap ton loaded onto the brush then. And just brush it nice and sort of. Ooh. I tell you what, actually, that ain't horrendous. You know, it's thin, so it'll require a good bit of building up. But for a base coat, that certainly ain't bad. I like that a lot, in fact, that sort of thing. So let's take a bit more, definitely do dabbing along, maybe one good application of paint per 2 chitinous plates. We're starting to come along together now. So, good chunk of additional color on. See him up here. Particularly focus around the tops of these plates and everything. A little teeny tiny bit on here and everything. So that isn't half bad. Let's go along the tops of these here bits and try and get these here chimneys. I mean, I know they're obviously not chimneys, but they're basically chimneys. So let's see what we can do with our remaining bit on there, and can we get a good sort of layer on it. Maybe along the back end we use this dark Calgar blue base, and maybe we try just a lighter layer on the underside, like his lower plates on here. Don't know why I'm saying his. There's something about, I don't know, spewing toxic fumes just makes me think of, basically this guy farts in combat. And I know between me and my partner, I certainly fart a lot more. I'm trying to think actually, maybe I've got a better brush than this. Maybe I don't need to be doing this with this type of brush. Let me grab one of the other types of brushes, which I think may be more suited to this kind of thing. Maybe. Probably not. God, this brush is fucked. Yeah, I need proper brush cleaner. So, meantime, quite firm bristles and everything. Actually, no. You're not that firm bristle-wise, and you certainly. You're the right type of shape. So let's mix together on it. And then, oh boy, way too watery. I need a lot more paint on this particular brush. Yeah, that's extremely watery. I mean, it's cool color. But, yeah, I'm almost dry brushing at this point. We need more Calgar blue, I think, is the truth of it. Wait, is Calgar blue lit? Did I pick it? I did, didn't I? Oh, Calidor Sky. Never mind. Never mind. I was being a silly biscuit. Let's put a little bit onto the wet palette. But for this here, yes. Oh yeah. Okay, yes. This is exactly what I actually wanted. Yeah. This right here is exactly what I wanted out of it. So let's take another little dab and we're gonna clean up this side too. Yes. Okay. So, that's a good, nice blue coating on him. Said him again there, didn't I? Yes, I did. Whoop. Okay, a little bit more on these. We got a bit to do on the upper side in between the plates, so let's take this little brush and take, oop, no, we're gonna need a bit more Calidor Sky, so we're just gonna take it straight from the bottle, and our thing is just trying to get it in between in the bits where this brush is too big to fit in between, so we want to try and push this in between the little bits. Once that's done, then our top plate is mostly sorted. So, another chunk of this here between the plates. You can't actually really see at the moment really what's going on, so I will try and rotate it around to show you. So, I'm trying to get it in between the pieces joined up there. Once the top plates are done, I'm going to do the smoke. This is the one that the motif is reused in. But a very good motif and a very good song. So let's try and get, I think, for the most part, we're there. Yep, I think we're round about there now. So let's give a little clean this brush, and then we'll do a final sweep along the top plate parts. Let's take this here. Lovely. Good chunk on there, and let's just do along these top sections, nice and easy. Do the same here. Another little touch onto this bit. Ooh, that's maybe going to be a bit too much on these here sections, so let's spread it around a little bit. Ooh. Blowy angles I was missing here. So, let's try and brush as much as we can off of this here. Okay. I should be able then, theoretically, to... Yeah, there's no blue coming off of that there. So for this here then, the smoke on the top we're going to do with, start off with Striking Scorpion Green. And we are going to use one of our thinner sort of brushes, not too thin though, and we're gonna do let's see, let's take You're too thin. Where is a decent-ish thickness of one? Here we go. Oh shit, sorry Eminem, didn't see the notification there. Yo, I'm imagining not the actual Eminem, but thank you very much for the follow. Apologies if I missed you. Hopefully you're having yourself a good night though. So we're gonna take, oh, this is a very vibrant kind of green. Let's get this onto the wet palette then. This is very vibrant, in fact. I get kind of lost sometimes in painting my little miniatures. There we go. Always close the pack with a click and a clack. So we're gonna do, ooh, yes. So there we go. Make sure I'm getting into these here to paint all the little bits. And then there we go. These here are, I want to try and spread it around before it sets too much. And I'll do paint from each side rather than like doing one sweep from both sides, because if it looks uneven, it's like smoke. You know, smoke doesn't look even. So another little bit of the contrast. And just run it over everything. Starting to look green and toxic. So let's get into those little gaps there. Okay, we've got those bits there. Let's do along the edges in here with it. And it's a contrast one, so it's very fluid, follows more onto the crevices and all than it does onto, like, it fits very well into shadow. So if it brushes along the top, it's almost gonna give the effect of like source lighting kind of thing. I think they call it object source lighting. I might be wrong. I'm probably wrong, in fact. I've not really used this contrast before. This is my first time opening the bottle, actually. I've never used it in the shop or anything. I'm just kind of hoping that it works for what I want it to. As it dries, it probably will darken. But if it can at least stain enough green, you know, maybe it's dark to start and it lightens as it works its way up. You know, maybe that's what we're dealing with. It's very dark at the base, and as it goes up, it gets a lighter sort of green. So let's get a little bit more striking Scorpion then. There we go. So now we do a quick little sort of sweep along it. Try and really push it into the crevices, into the recesses, into the points where it will settle and create a shade effect. A little bit more. See what we've got. And come on. Good rush of it. Nice wide sweeps. So these wide sweeps that we do will help, because it'll push it along so where the color isn't as concentrated. And then at that point, that gives a much more three-dimensional sort of effect to it. As you can see from the way it's like dark, but it gets sort of a bit lighter as though the color is becoming washed out, moving up. Right, so got a good chunk there. Let's do wide sweeping movements. You know what? Screw it. Maybe we're gonna give it a try. Let's see what it's like. Contrast on a makeup brush. Didn't really get any sort of on there, I don't think. Oh, a little bit more there. We'll have little touch-ups and fineries to do and everything, but yeah, this is promising at least. Lovely, and give it a good wash. Okay. That's... yeah. Needs more on this side, so let's get more contrast onto the brush and give it a nice big wide sweep. So I'm also going to try and deliberately get it to sort of like kind of move along the edge of these things so that there's an illusion of it generating light and color and everything. I've probably gone a little too far down on the things, but I think you can kind of see what I was going for. So, there we go. Let's give a good wash of this here. I mean, it's these makeup brush things, honestly, great little purchase for me. Thoroughly enjoy working with them. So let's dry off a little bit of this here. I'm feeling this is, yep, this is still very much stained. Okay, yeah, not going to be reusing that immediately. Let's look back at the little details. So there are some tiny little details on its back and bottom and everything, which we could do with focusing on. So let's take just the tiniest little bit of Emperor's Children, and we're gonna put some of that there onto our palette. Good stuff. Nice and dry. And let's look at the underside. So you can kind of see what I'm on about with the veins and all. But veins as they get closer to the skin, tend to show whatever color of the sort of blood that there is. For these here ones, we're going with a pinkish sort of color. So let's try and make sure we get this here. Tiny bit more. So you can see the pink standing out against the white fleshy tones there. Let's just try and get lots of these little tiny bits done. Ooh. I'm thinking maybe I should have grabbed some fulgrim pink as well. With fulgrim pink, I could have even added a little bit more three-dimensionality to the sort of bulging veins on that. But I guess there's still time, you know? I mean, we're only at 10:15 right now. So, brush over these wee bits here. A little bit more onto the brush. And a tiny bit more again. There we go. No, we accidentally made that vein a little too thick on him. Good to see him on this bit. Okay, another little piece under here. We're gonna go underneath for that. And across this wee side piece here. Ooh. There's just enough coming off there that I like it. Okay, so he's got those little bits there. He's got those little bits there. Ooh, did I miss? I did miss a couple of veins there. Oh yeah, that's much nicer, I think. Much nicer. So, with that bit done, we can add more of our white base coat to go over our previous mistakes. So, first things first, little bits along here definitely need covered up. Yep, cover these here sections. Might take a couple of little pieces, but what odds? We work with what we can. A little bit more of this. Make sure I get a good chunk of this covered up. So there we go, we're getting a few more little bits here done. No. Try and get in under here. Ooh, yeah. Try and get in all these little bits. Brush what we can across. All right, get in there. So, okay, all right. Big, nice blue chitinous carapace. No. What way does it form, is the question. I think, well, first things first, let's take some Calgar blue. And along the back plates, we're going to do some edge highlighting with the Calgar blue. That's something quite important. We'll do along the edges of each plate. So. That was maybe a bit too thick on that plate. So let's try, in fact, you know what, let's try and just run along these little segments here and just try and do light around these edge plates, so you can hopefully kind of see where I'm trying to go with this. I want the edges of these plates to look very sort of very different color to sort of highlight out where the difference is. I don't know how much you're going to get from it with this brightness up so high. Let's see if you can. Doesn't really help that much for seeing the thing. So maybe it'll make more sense if I apply it around the points that look like sort of damage, I guess. It's maybe not going to be the easiest to tell, so maybe I'll have to go for a much lighter sort of color than I currently am. So, oh, you can kind of see it. You can kind of see on it those little bits there. Those are kinds of things I'm talking about. I can also see really obvious points where I cocked up earlier with it. So let's try and use a little bit more Calidor Sky to fix those. So, got a bit of Calidor Sky, and I do not know what generated that sound just now. So, that's hopefully a little bit more sort of helpful for things. But here is how we're looking at about an hour and a half in. Got the little veins sort of painted on it. Got his thing done. And what I think is pretty okay-ish. It needs touched up. It needs a serious touch-up. We need more striking scorpion green. So let's use more of it. Once we actually have it done, I am also, believe it or not, an exceptionally tired fellow this evening. Wrong thing. Okay. So you can see here we're sort of... We are trying to get it. They're spewing. This side is also spewing. Nice and vibrant. Less vibrant. So maybe let's take just a little touch of this here with the small brush. And push it up and across and everything. And a lot more of this here. Give it a good chunk of the tint here. Enough to definitely sort of stain. Looks good. Also looks good. I'm happy with that. That's what I would say is a very nice sort of color. I don't know where all this Calidor sky keeps coming from on my hand. But let's give the bottle a clean. Because I think we've got a problem with the bottle somewhere. Okie dokies. Yeah, I thought so. We have a little bit on the outside of the rim and a little bit on the top of the thing. So if I give these a good dab, that should hopefully take care of that. And I can go ahead and clean my hand quickly. But yes, let's take a little bit. Let's go ahead and clean our brushes now. Because for now, I think actually, just from how tired I am, we're possibly going to call this just the end of part 1. End of part 1. And we will return on another night, fresh and reinvigorated. Because currently, I'm about to fall asleep. Don't know about y'all, but I am, for sure. So, let's leave it there, and I'll let you see just what an hour and a half can do. Nice and easily. Base coat on it for a lot of the top plating and the fleshy pieces. And we've done the edge highlighty bits. And we've done a big smoke plume from it. So next week we'll do the lower plates, we'll do the legs, the arms, all that there sort of stuff. And particularly, that mouth looks gruesome. So we'll do some of that next week. But this is definitely going to be a few weeks long project. Meantime, take care of yourselves. I will be back on Friday with some Call of Duty. In the meantime, Have a great rest of your week.